Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd love for us to kind of give a little bit of background of how everybody knows Liz, and maybe a sentence or two, certainly longer if you'd like, uh, with a memory or something that you'd like to talk about with her. How about we start with you, Marcia?
Ah, okay.
This is just a sentence or two, not
Okay.
anything.
Well, I count Liz as one of my top two friends, the other being my wife, Susan, who died 2 years ago yesterday. So, and we stayed in touch. We kind of didn't stay in touch quite so much during college because I think we were too busy, although we always saw each other in the summer. And then I don't know, we started like calling each other. We decided, okay, we had to talk once a month. And then it got, no, we have to talk more than that. And then after Susan died, she was, oh my God, we talked every day until like a week before she died. And and as I was saying, I talked to Anna, her cousin, yesterday for a really long time, and apparently, very, very few people knew that she was sick. And Anna said that even her husband Larry didn't know that she was sick. So, I mean, he knew she was sick, but not that she had cancer.
Wow.
So that's just from Anna yesterday. So, and Christy, you saw her much more often. Okay, this isn't exactly going memories. Okay.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We can, it's definitely a good place to start,
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So her death has created such another huge hole in my life. And so it's just, I mean, I still think like, oh my God, I have to call Liz and tell her that. And it's like, no, she's not there. I mean, she's out there somewhere, but not that I can call her. So, and we saw each other, I'm guessing probably maybe every 2 years or so when she was in Connecticut and I was here. So it's really a wonderful, wonderful friendship. And I count myself so blessed to have two such extraordinary women in my life, So
That is truly beautiful. And I know she spoke so fondly of you, and I'm sorry that we all three didn't get together.
Oh, I know it would be wonderful, but when I'm in Connecticut at some point this year,
Please.
Christy, we're going to hang out. I'm
We are.
telling you. And John, you should join us, and anyone else who's in Connecticut,
There you
That would be great.
Let me know when you're going.
Oh, absolutely. I'm planning on going, and I don't know when this is, to whenever her family does a memorial service. And I talked to Larry's sister maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. I know her only because her son Alex came and stayed with me for about a month when he moved here before he and his friend found an apartment together. And oh my God, I love Alex, So I talked to Sharon, Larry's brother, and at that point, they did not know when they were going to have it. I don't know if there's any new information now, but I would certainly let everyone know who's been involved in this in case people are interested in going. And then, of course, I want to go to the Historical Society exhibit and wander around Old Saybrook to all of our old haunts,
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Oh, look at that. Look at the valedictorian salute.
I know. I love
Gary.
those.
Gary likes to say first and second, right?
Yeah, I was second fiddle. I was reading today that Liz taught herself how to read when she was 3 years old.
Wow.
And she said,
doesn't surprise me one bit.
Yeah, that's in that the nurturing mother chapter that
Yep.
At home inside. And she said she got tired of her seeing her mom and dad with their noses stuck in books. She didn't understand what it was they were doing. So she'd pull herself up into their laps, and then she would start pointing and say, well, what does this say? What does this say? Well, what does that mean? And after a while, she could read.
You know, there's this wonderful picture that I think you've downloaded, Gary,
Yeah.
where she's sitting on her mom's lap reading a book. And that just reminds me how she must have like cuddled up. I mean, I've seen that picture many times, but
Right.
it's like such a great picture sitting reading on her mom's lap, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. So I'm here we go. I'm interested. I never got to go in. I was never invited to any of the parties or got to go have breakfast. I never had George Petry say, "Come on in, Gary, and let's crack open an idea."
No, that was my father saying to Liz.
Oh, that was your father. There you go. That was your father. Okay. Well, anyway.
His name was George too, right?
Well, when I would go to their door, he would open up the door, and he had such a fabulous voice, you know. He would open the door and say, "Well, hello, Marsha. Come right in."
So I'm curious, those of you who did hang out with Liz and you were in the house, you know, what was that like for you, Derry?
Oh, golly, it's been so long. I would walk home with Liz being in this beautiful colonial home on the way to my house, because I was further down the road. And we would stop there and we would, you know, have after school, whatever it was, snacks.
Tea.
And her mother and her father were both in the kitchen always. You would walk in the front door and you go down a hallway. And at the end of the hallway was the kitchen, as I remembered.
Yep.
And that's where we sat at the kitchen table, Liz and I, and her mother would be doing things like, I don't know, I think her father was the one who prepared meals, but I might have been mistaken for that. But they'd be working around us and we'd be chatting and whatever, and the cat would wander in. And then after a while, I'd have to get home because I was further down. I was probably about a mile or so beyond their house. But yeah, that really struck me. And really, childhood or high school was really the only time I met her once. And I can't even remember how many years ago it was, but I think she was in Middletown at the time, and she came down and met me for lunch, and we had lunch, and that's when I think we were still in the Saybrook house, although maybe not, it might have been the Essex house, but it was a very sweet time. You know, we caught up, and she had lost so much weight. My gosh, she was just very svelte and beautiful.
Elegant.
Mhm.
That's what I remember. And I'm glad I met her then, because after that, I didn't have any contact with her. Our lives were so different at that time.
And
Those were
busy.
my memories, good memories, high school memories. Didn't she have lunch, Gary? The seniors would always have lunch up on the stage, as I remember. And
Yeah.
it was a select few. It was the eggheads. We were the nerds. We were the eggheads. And that's why we always had lunch together. I remember that part.
Yeah.
I know. I never ate in the lunchroom because I was a music department nerd and would always eat there.
Ooh, different table.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Terry. Hey, Did you, so your story about the cat and the fish head
Mm-hmm.
and George Petry, okay, so she writes about that in her book.
Oh, good. I will have to get her book. I do not have her book.
So, but Christie's gonna scan the chapter about her mom. The nurturing mother. And you know, her memories of all the ways that her mom was both overprotective and underprotective. And it's really good.
It's a great chapter. I started scanning it, had some success. So it's a little bit of a differently sized shape.
Wow.
So, sorry.
Beautiful picture.
There we go. So it's a little bit awkward, but I should have all the pages in that chapter scanned and I'll email them out. But that was a great idea, Gary. It's a wonderful piece that especially since you know the people, it'll be really interesting to read.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I would enjoy that.
Yeah.
It's a
So
different time. It's a different time.
Oh, totally. Isn't it though?
Gosh, yeah.
I'm sorry, Sarah, did you start to say something?
No, I didn't.
Marcia, do you remember the time when you were walking home from school with Liz and she got this terrible pain?
Yes, I totally do. In fact, when I read it in the book, I thought, oh my God, I totally remember that. Yeah.
She got a terrible what?
Some pain somewhere. And I told her, we were almost to my house, which was not that far from the Petry's house. And I remember exactly where it was. It was, right sort of kitty corner across from the old library. And I can't remember where she had the pain, but she was almost incapacitated. And so I told her, well, I would run home and get my mother to bring the car and we'd just take her home. And she said, no, don't do that. I can make it. And so we walked really, really slowly to her house. So, yeah.
But do you remember what happened to her mom? At the same time? Same time, her mom had fallen. Had taken
yes.
fall.
Yes. I'd forgotten that. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, and she talks about the link with her mom.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that was one of the most amazing examples of she got this unexplained pain.
Yeah.
Exactly the same time that her mother fell and hurt her back.
Yeah.
That was in the book, Gary.
Yeah. And she also talks about the cone of caring that she later on when her mom was out doing lectures and stuff and was not all in all that great health, and Liz would send out positive caring thoughts and her mom would feel it. She would feel the comfort envelop her, and she knew that, and she called it her Liz's cone of caring.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. That's
How old was Ann Petry when she died?
87, I think.
88?
87 or so.
Right.
She died in 97, I think, and I already had my tickets to go to Vietnam to pick up Tim, and so I told her I couldn't come, and she excused me since I was going to Vietnam.
That's your son.
Yeah, my son Tim. Yeah. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, John, you remember Skin of Our Teeth?
How can I forget that? That was, it's hard to put words to it, but it may have been arguably the high point of my dramatic career. I don't think I'd be capable of ever doing that again.
And John, I cannot believe how we went to New Haven. The two of us went to New Haven because someone, either you had found out or someone had, that some theater troupe in New Haven was doing it. And we thought we should all go. And Mrs. White said, no way, do not go. Do not go because it will color your performance.
Response.
And we went anyway.
What? Hey,
We
you don't
did
say that
not.
to anybody who crashes Blue Jays, you know?
Well, what was really weird is that then the whole cast came to our show. So Mrs. White found out that John and I had gone. But there was never, I mean, and they said it was way better than their performance. I couldn't tell you that, but
I agree.
she was she never took us aside and said, what did you think you were doing? So anyway, we passed something, John.
Well, and Mrs. White's look alone could put
Oh
you
my
make you
God,
become
yes.
an undulating gelatinous piece of protoplasm. She was a scary lady when she wanted to be.
She
Well,
was
I
amazing.
remember
The
one
poor
time-
woman, having taught English for a long time, I think back on her and what she had to put up with.
Oh my God, yes.
Well, the things we did to her.
But
Really?
I remember one time she got really mad at me because I got out of character when she was giving us directions. You know, we were all on the stage, and I must have like crossed my feet and put weight on one foot more than the other, like I was sort of wont to do at that time. And she said, Marcia, get back in character. Okay.
You are Mrs. Antrobus.
Uh-huh.
Well, was The Skin of Our Teeth the first really dramatic piece that the school put on? Otherwise, it was always musicals.
Not really, because when I was a freshman or sophomore, they did Member of a Wedding.
Oh, I remember that.
Right.
And then I can't remember what else, because I thought there was a senior class play every year, because I was in it when I was in Skin of Our Teeth when I was a junior, but I think when we were seniors, she did Hamlet, I think.
Yes, and I know that they never asked me to be Skin of the Teeth because I was the player queen in Hamlet. I can remember being coach. So many journeys made the sun and moon. It didn't work out really well.
Well, she asked me if I would be Hamlet's mother, I think.
Oh,
And
wow.
I made up an excuse because I really did not want to have to put that much work in my fall of my whenever it was. And so my father was teaching at Penn State that year, and we went to visit him instead of play. I never saw the play because I just said, I'm really sorry, I can't do it.
Well, there.
Was Alan Gary Hamlet?
I think he might have been.
Wow.
I don't really remember.
Wow.
I finally, they browbeat me and offered me 50% off on Classmates. And so I finally signed up again. But I've been looking at yearbooks. And
Yeah.
I was looking at 65.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think they did a dramatic senior class play, but then they did musicals. I don't know, it must have been like every other year.
With John Terendi,
With
Oklahoma and South Pacific. And
yeah.
Right. Those were the early ones,
Yeah.
I think.
Right.
All I remember is musicals. I'd sit up and do the lights essentially, and that's it.
Wow, that's important.
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
you goof off a lot.
Okay, so and the theater connection here, and remembering Liz, is that for Member of the Wedding, Mrs. White wanted to put people in blackface, and Liz was
Really?
quite offended at that, and Ann Petry, being on the library board, was not going to have any of it, and so
That's the
Oh,
picture
there's a
behind
picture.
right now, where Liz is on her mom's lap.
There it
Gary-
is.
If you just turn around, oh, you can probably see it on your thingy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's behind Gary.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know that's such a sweet picture.
Isn't it though?
That is sweet. Oh,
Wow.
it's on the memory board, the Kudo board.
Okay.
You can see
I
it
can
there.
bring that up too, Gary, if you want me to. Let me share that really quick.
Well, yeah, okay.
so that you guys can see.
Yeah.
I know a lot of you have posted on, and if you'd like to add something, please feel free. I can make sure everybody has the link.
Hey, would you stop for a second on the fish story?
Yeah,
Shad Row, nothing like it, Shad.
Can you move it up just a little bit?
yep.
All right, here we go. Gary's dramatic reading. So Liz was a high school friend, and Gary remembers, and her dad cutting up fish to feed their cat. All right, so then we go down to Liz's version in the book. In spring, we had traditional New England dinners: baked Connecticut River shad, little potatoes, asparagus from Daddy's garden, strawberry shortcake. Mother fixed bluefish, the oily scavenger that was fit for the poor, but they loved it. They had been swimming in Long Island Sound just a few hours earlier as a commercial fisherman dropped it off. Daddy cleaned it and gutted it.
Guess who that was? That was my father.
Was it? I love it.
Oh,
Sally.
is that
Yes, he
right?
was- Yep.
Oh God, I
Wow.
love
Really?
I'll go up to
Okay.
see, but yep.
Well, just let me finish this and then we got to get back to that. The first time I heard my father say shit was the day our cat, Mr. Toby, all 15 pounds of him, hoisted himself up my father's pants leg to get his share of the catch. Daddy decapitated the fish and launched Toby and the fish head out onto the lawn. I don't know who was more surprised, Daddy, me, or the cat. With the gutting and scaling complete, Mother took over. And then she goes on to describe how her mom would cook fish to take the oily taste out of it. So, but I didn't put that part in. Okay, come on,
Oh,
Sarah, tell us about
That
your
would have
dad.
been good.
Sally, your dad was the fisherman that caught the fish?
Yeah, he was a tool and die machinist at nighttime, but he was the New England fisherman, and he diversified as is necessary up there. So some years the garage was filled with oysters. We'd get them in Niantic Bay, and he'd buy them up.
Wow.
Or scallops. He'd be in the basement. Oh my gosh, you pop those. And there was blue fishing, and years there were shad nets drying out. But that was interesting because I know I don't remember my mother bringing the bluefish over, but I was thinking that might be a possibility. So that's absolutely a lovely thing to remember,
And your dad may have been the perpetrator.
right?
Yes.
Isn't that something? So Marcia and Sally and Derry you lived on Boston Post Road?
I lived on Cottage Place, just around the corner, and Marcia, Denise, Beardsworth
Right.
lived close. The Egan's, just Johnny Eyre, the Egan's, the Beardsworths, and the Ketchums, right?
Mhm.
And then you go down to the end, and there was what was her name? The music director. She was
Oh, Mrs. Duncan.
Mrs. Duncan. Was it
Yeah.
Jerry Duncan? And then I think that the Petry's house was next. So just, all those houses were really beautiful. And we lived on Cottage Place at Dead End Street. And just it's so good to hear all these memories. I don't know what happened to me in high school, the oboe or whatever craziness, but and the oboe still makes me crazy. But Liz and I played together as kids. We'd have play dates that our mothers would set up and get into all sorts of mischief. And I remember how beautiful their home was, right? And I wanted to show you that I was thinking of getting them out. When I married Buck, Howard Cornell, right? He was graduated couple. She gave these beautiful antique salad dishes. It was really lovely. That must have been in her family. Such a lovely gift.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's
And she went on to do glorious things.
I love these memories. This is, and we're capturing it, which is wonderful.
Sally, did you say that Liz was actually playing oboe with you?
No, I just said I went on to play oboe.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, band stuff.
That's an instrument that takes no prisoners. It's merciless.
Oh no, it's crazy making. It's crazy. And it really is. I'm still, I mean, I play every day, but I finally decided I was happy to, because I played in a community orchestra for a long time. But you get to a point, the stress of the concerts and the rehearsals. But in the summer, I go to Lindenville, Vermont, to the Vermont Arts and Camp thing. It's chamber music with a lot of old people.
Oh,
So we
fun.
play chamber music all day, and then we drink wine all night.
No, great.
That sounds wonderful.
Good therapy.
I've lost the picture.
Oh, you-
Yeah, go down on the lower part of your screen and just tap on Zoom, and it should come back.
Oh, okay.
oh, Gary lost her picture. Okay.
We can see you though.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not seeing-
Yeah, you're showing up as being on.
Well, I just pressed Zoom and nothing's going on.
You can go out and come back in again too. Just use the same link.
Verify my age? I don't think so.
Oh yeah, that's not the right
There.
place.
Okay.
Oh, good. Okay.
Are you back?
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh, good.
for some reason I just kind of left.
Yeah.
Just so you can make a dramatic entrance and be back.
Yeah, right. Well, it's blank page.
Yeah.
When did Elizabeth get married?
In 2004
Wonderful. To Larry, right?
to Larry, and she had been married before and divorced quite a long time ago. So she was single for a really long time.
Okay.
And then she called me and she said, and we had, at this point, we weren't talking any more than like once a month. And she said to me, well, Marcia, I'm getting married. And I said, I didn't even know you were dating anyone. How could you be getting married? And she said, oh, she'd known Larry for a really long time because she knew Larry's sisters, and that it just like they had always been close. And and I was just saying, you go, girl. And then Tim and I went to the wedding. It was really fun.
Were there quite a few people there?
Yeah, a really nice number. Did you know Liz at that time, Christy?
I didn't, but I interviewed Larry
Uh-huh.
podcast, and after we weren't rolling anymore, I said, gee, Larry, I don't really know how you and Liz met. I didn't do it on tape because it just seemed
Right,
too personal.
right.
And he said, oh, she was a reporter. I didn't want anything to do with a reporter. But then he got to know her and found out that, really,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is a very special person.
yeah.
Well, and that's nice. It sounds like she married into a very nice family. If she,
Oh, I really like Larry. I've never met Sharon, or Debbie is another sister. And then I think there's a third sister too, whose name I can't remember. I've not met them, but Larry was great. They were here one time and it was really funny. And he did many things, but he had been a dog trainer in Vietnam. And so he continued, training dogs. And so we had our old dog. Well, Zoe wasn't that old at that time, but Zoe was moderately well trained. And he comes walking into the living room and Larry is sitting here, and and Larry gives Zoe one look, and she looks back at him, sits right down, and looks him in the eye. It's like, you do not, as a dog, you do not mess with Larry.
No. The dog whisperer.
Yes.
Absolutely.
It was, I said, wow, Larry, you have a way with dogs. He said, I've been told that.
a dog whisperer.
Yes.
Sally, are you still
I'm sorry.
are you still playing with the symphony?
My son has two children. So this year, well, first with COVID, we did some, the the little, what do you call them? You know, you record yourself at home. That was a nightmare. Oh my gosh. And then I was going back this year and I did play a couple of concerts and then travel, and it's time to take a break from it. And I'm pretty good with that decision. You know, I'm still on the board and things like that and still practicing. But, you know, age, compression, right? Breathing, tension, who
Making
needs
those
more?
making those reads.
Yeah, right.
Right, playing for fun is a lot different than trying to play in a performance. So I would see that the pressure would be
Right.
quite a bit, you know, where you're doing it for fun.
I
After 50 years of it, right?
A lot.
I have to tell you that my dad was still playing tuba at 92. He was
Wow.
playing in the community band at Middlebury College,
Wonderful.
which is my alma mater.
That's great.
And
That's where you got your brass addiction
Pardon?
from? That's where you got your brass addiction from?
Yes. Yeah,
Playing tuba at 92 is no small feat.
no, not at all. And my favorite memory is that I got to take my trombone with me because I was playing in a community band, and I got to play with him at a rehearsal. That was really, really
that's-
Oh, how fun.
sweet memory.
That's very cool.
So we have the reed suckers on one hand and the lemon suckers on the other.
You and me, John, we sat there together. We made
Well,
Oh, yeah.
and then there
The
then
artillery
there over the
section.
hole blowers too.
yes, yeah.
Off to
Well, there
play.
you go. There you go. Yeah, the whole blowers. Yeah.
Sally and I sat next to each other in band for years. So
Yeah.
Too many was something.
So were you folks, were you big readers in high school? Did you talk about books with each other, or was it more, was there just so much going on with classes and things like that? Was that more sort of the focus, the papers and the things that your homework?
I
think we
remember
talked about
doing
drugs
3
and
hours
sex.
French homework for Mrs. Dibble. I remember that.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah.
we're all laughing about that, Sally.
We did. I mean, you know, we read books
Uh-huh.
in French.
Oh, remember Mr. Merrill and the Scarlet Letter? Oh my God, if we spent
God, Hester Prynne.
a whole semester on that.
Yeah.
It's not a big book.
No, but you know that
We went through word by word.
Right, it's dreadful. It's really dreadful.
I was mesmerized by that book in high school, but later on when I tried to teach it, I mean, the writing was really difficult. My students really struggled with it. They didn't see the magic in it.
Was anybody else traumatized by Mrs. White's insistence on our memorizing things? I wake up in the middle of the night with Hamlet kind of spitting out of my mouth, and it's a horrible thing.
I remember having to memorize things, and I would work on them, and then I would come down. We always ate breakfast together as a family. So, you know, I'd bring my little crib sheet down to continue memorizing, and my father would say, "Oh, what are you memorizing?" And I would tell him, and then he would just spout it off. Memorize, 40 years earlier. It's like, wait, you memorized that 40 years ago. How can you still remember that?
It's an earworm. You just can't get rid of it. It's like
Yeah.
head lice.
And Derry, you taught French.
Yeah, French and Spanish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Mrs. Dibble didn't turn me off completely, so I just.
No, she was a demanding teacher.
Oh, she was, yeah.
She signed my yearbook in French.
Oh,
I did?
No, Mrs. Dibble.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. How obnoxious is that?
Mom and
Beyond the
Mrs.
pale.
Dibble met at different stores or whatever in Saybrook. I remember that. And I think we went to see her. Mom and I went to see her. many years after I graduated. So, yeah.
So we had these, we were together, the eggheads, for what, like 4 or 5 hours every day. And then we would be together for all the extracurricular activities. And now I went to the Grace Episcopal Church, and I don't think Liz did. Right. I think she went to the Congregational Church, but is there anybody here who can dispute?
Well, I know she used to go to the Episcopal Church at Christmas time, but I don't remember her ever going to the Congregational Church, but that doesn't mean a whole lot. Excuse me, I'm walking a leg cramp out.
Yeah.
That's why I'm wandering around in circles.
Yeah, I'm getting dizzy.
Yeah. Well, I never claimed not to be dizzy, so.
Okay. Yeah, I wish Bunny had been able to join us. She said she wasn't all that good on Bunny Lane loves Louise Lane, who's really active on the Old Saybrook history page.
Uh-huh.
Right.
But yeah, and she's still very active in the Episcopal Church.
And she volunteers at the Cape.
Yeah. Oh, that's another thing.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Here's another question. I had no idea that Ann Petry had written a million-selling novel, and that she was a famous author. Were any of you aware that her mom was?
Yes.
I just remember the drugstore cat, and I do remember that. But before that, she had some racy novels, I heard. But some really sexy novels. But I never read them, and I don't remember the title. But I just remember the drugstore cat.
Right.
And
her famous book was At the Street.
Yeah.
Right.
The
And I was reading about her, and I do know what you're talking about, Derry. Was researching it, and it might have been about a mixed couple somewhere in Connecticut. I'm glad you mentioned it because I'd like to read it again. And George apparently was an author too, my mother said, but he never shared the name that he wrote under.
Yeah, the book you're talking about is The Narrows.
The Narrows, that's what it is.
And
Have you read it?
is very good.
And then the other one that's really good that you don't have to read too far between the lines to know that it's Old Saybrook is Country Place, I think it's called, which is also really good.
I thought that was interesting, Sarah. You lived on country, like a country place.
Cottage
Place.
Yeah.
And when you said that, I thought, oh, that's very interesting. Because country place. They're all of her books are very compelling.
They are.
You wouldn't know they were written all these years ago, except sometimes something will be mentioned like a frock. Or something like or some type of language that is a little bit more old-fashioned. But I read The Street in 2 days. I couldn't put it down. I mean,
A Country Place.
The Street.
Yeah.
And that was
that's a hefty book too.
It is.
You must have read 24/7.
Oh,
well,
I just
24/3 or 2.
Yeah. Just couldn't stop. But all of her books are excellent.
Okay, a little so Derek, Christy and I are librarians. And would any of you have predicted that I would have become a librarian?
Hey, Lori, I'm on a Zoom call. Can I call you back? Okay, thanks.
There's silence here, Gary. I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think they want to say.
Yeah, I guess they don't. I guess they don't want to play.
No, that was God's revenge,
you
I
went
guess.
to Middlebury. That's a foreign language stronghold.
Yeah, and I took like sophomore French, and we read all those existentialists, and I decided it was not for me. No.
And you ended up at Middlebury College of all places.
Well, that's where Mrs. White told me I had to go.
Oh,
You did.
really?
You know,
Did anybody else go to college recommended by Mrs. White? This is very interesting to me.
And
No,
not I.
No.
I didn't know her very well. I just remember her hand just, oh, I'm off again. What happens?
Oh, no,
Still
dear.
here.
We
You
can
can-
still see you.
we can see you. Can you hear us?
I don't know what the problem is. Cancel. No, I don't want to leave the meeting. It asked me how old I was. Then you said, do you want to leave the meeting? I say no, and here I am back again because I didn't leave the meeting.
So you're
And
back now?
you remember Mrs. White wringing her hands? She was always in the front of the classroom and she'd go like this. I just remember that.
I have,
It's
you,
very dramatic.
she was, Chris, you asked if we read. And I think it must have been, did we have her in our senior year? And we had to read a bunch of short stories, which I didn't read. And you remember Rusty Vile, before class, I said, tell me what all the stories were about. And he gave me a great synopsis. And guess what? I got an A on that quiz because Rusty was so incisive. I think I did better than he did. Looking back on that
Oh,
It
that's hysterical. I love it.
I mean, normally I didn't think of myself as a cheater, but looking back on that,
This is book discussion, that's all.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
That's wonderful, actually. I love that.
yeah.
do you remember we had those two young guys? Was his name Tejan? And the
Yeah,
chemistry
Ray
teacher,
Tiernan. Ray Tiernan.
Ray Tiernan. He came in.
Sophomore English. Yeah.
He came in just from college and he assigned us all literary research papers. Like because I taught I taught English for over 30 years and I I studied how to teach a research paper. And for the kids to learn it, you've got to break it down. He just said, make it a literary research paper.
And
He
that's all
failed.
he did.
He failed everyone on the paper. He was so disgusted with the papers. But he was a new teacher, right?
He just wanted you to know by osmosis that this was how you're supposed to do it.
Right. Right.
Oh, that's hard.
Maybe some of you got an A on that research paper. Do you remember?
What was that? Were you asking me?
Literary research paper that he assigned us.
I don't remember what I got. I remember what I wrote on because I went to him and said, I know this is kind of a really weird request, but I'd like to write about L. Frank Baum, of
Wizard of Oz.
Wizard of Oz. And he said, oh my God, that would be great. I don't remember what I got. I really honestly don't remember what I got on it, but it was fun. I learned a lot about L. Frank Baum.
Yeah.
There's a book that I'll have to give you, Marcia, that is fictional, but it talks about his life, and I think it's from his wife's perspective. But it's
Interesting.
so much, more than what most people know with the Wizard of Oz, and I didn't know any of that, so I found it fascinating.
Well, and Susan's family had all of the Oz books.
Yes.
And Susan's sister gave them to us when the boys were little. And Tim and I read every single one of them. And they are so fun.
Yes.
Like the Patchwork Girl of Oz. There is a glass cat that all these years later, I remember, whenever the glass cat would meet anyone, he would say, I have pink brains and you can see them work.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Okay, here's a one for you is Liz's mom thought about or believed in past lives, and she believed in past lives that she was a witch, other things, and she had phobias, like phobias about thunderstorms and wind and all of that, and she talked about how when she was out riding the broomstick and the wind would bother her and she had problems, and now she didn't like the wind. And any phobias that you remember in your?
Not that I ever heard about.
No, okay, all right,
Amazing.
okay.
I just
And
remember Mrs. Petry had a presence.
Oh, she totally
She
did.
would walk into a room in that really quite majestic walk that she had. And did she have glasses? Just, I kind of remember I just remember that she really had a very majestic presence, whether it was a PTA meeting or whether it was a concert or whatever, wherever I saw her, she had an important person aura.
Yes, she did. She totally did.
There's
But she was-
definitely that. Yeah.
And along
definitely.
with that, she was very loving also. I mean, it wasn't that she kind of put herself apart, at least as I remember her. I mean, she was, yeah. I mean, she was really a wonderful woman.
Yeah.
Has anybody met Miss James, the aunt, at all?
Yes, I remember her.
Oh, absolutely. I
She,
do.
Yeah, she struck me as having that grace and sense of command that in Liz, I guess, having been around her for so long, was more understated. But she was a Miss James I met several times in the pharmacy, and she was a presence. She was almost something out of a Tennessee Williams play.
Hmm.
I could see Kate Hepburn playing her, for example, very easily.
Now, one story is that the young Katharine Hepburn was a friend of Miss James, and her family
Wouldn't surprise me.
her
Wow.
family did not want her to go to New York to audition for an acting role, and Miss James gave her the bus fare, and she talked about that. Katharine Hepburn talked about that her whole life.
Wow.
Isn't that?
What an irony.
Really, really wonderful.
And so it began. Wow.
Yeah, and so it began, right? And Liz's recounting of how of Mrs. James' decline, of Miss James' decline, and how her mom found her, and how she died is really heartbreaking.
I don't think I know that. I don't know
Yeah,
that happened.
yeah, it's in the at home inside.
Oh, okay, then I probably do. I read that a long time ago, so I.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, you think about the Connecticut shoreline in the early 1900s, there were pharmacists and there was one traveling doctor who was traveling. So people's medical needs were cared for by pharmacists. So the James Pharmacy, that was the ENT, you know, I mean, that was the emergency room for our forebears. They were much more important than I think people realize.
Yeah. When did that pharmacy start, Gary? Was it 1908 or 1910, something like that?
That's a good
I'll
question.
check. I will check right now.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, but it was her grandfather who started it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was there goes the librarian.
1790.
17, okay.
It
Yeah,
was originally,
I think he had been a pharmacist in Hartford, and then he found the shoreline to be attractive, so he moved the family there. And then so then Anna, who was Peter Lane's wife's sister, went to pharmacy school. She was the first African-American licensed pharmacist. And the rule was that you had to have a licensed pharmacist in order to operate a pharmacy. And then Ann Petry also was a she went to pharmacy school and was a licensed pharmacist. So that's kind of interesting.
right?
Yeah. Hey, I'm looking at time here.
I'm gonna need to go soon because my lunch break is about up. I'm
Doing
gonna-
this on your lunch break?
I am. I'm gonna put that in the chat. This is a link that I just found. And it just talks a little bit about the James Pharmacy. And there's a section called Our History, and that's where the piece was about. Well, let me share it really quick. That's where the piece was about the date. So I'm so glad that you asked that.
Yeah, I think that up on the screen was her, I think that's her picture.
Oh, wonderful.
Yep.
That's what I remember as.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
Oh, hey, I think I may have to borrow these for the slideshow.
I think so.
Yeah, yeah. I have a picture of my wife looking through the window of the James Pharmacy in 06 when we went back for class reunion, and along with the sign about how Lafayette visited here in 17.
Bought something, apparently. I think they don't say what he bought. I think he just made a purchase.
Yeah,
And
probably
there
an
was-
ice cream soda.
I know.
What's the status of that now? Historical
Or a
landmark?
Coca-Cola, maybe.
Oh, and how many of you remember the soda fountain?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
I do.
Me too.
I don't think I ever was there.
Yeah.
Well, if you go back to Old Saybrook, you should go in and at least take a look at it. You know?
And it's a restaurant now, right?
It's, at least last summer, it was like a French cafe. They sold
Yes.
breakfast and things. It closed at noon.
Yeah. And I think they have James Pharmacy memorabilia there too. And
I think
Right.
Yeah, they do. They did when I was there before COVID. That may all be at the Historical Society now, but back a while ago, Marcia, it was funny you were saying about bike riding. Liz had given me a route to go bike riding.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I took the little jaunt through Old Saybrook and ended at the pharmacy, and I had
Right.
a lovely day.
well, that's one of my things I'd love to do while I'm there. So if you would like to join me on a bike ride, that
That'd
would
be great. Yes.
It
wonderful.
was great for bike
Awesome.
riding. Nice and
We should get
flat.
a little group together. If we're all there
Yes.
at the same time and just do a bicycle.
group.
Uh-huh.
They do so much more with history now. I mean, when we were in school, we never heard anything about slavery in Saybrook.
Right.
And Old Saybrook was it was involved in so many ways, a huge part of the slave trade, and when there were slaves in town.
Mhm.
And those big, beautiful houses were built by people who owned and traded
Yeah.
in slaves. And, that's,
Slave ships were built in Middletown for the most part.
They were.
Yeah.
And had them.
yeah.
Yep. Now there is a monument to remember people who were enslaved, and the Amistad has come. I think this will be the third year they come this fall, but there's a celebration, a remembrance time, not a celebration, it's a remembrance time, and they allow people to throw flowers into the water to remember and honor people who were enslaved. But
Mhm.
we also do Juneteenth here, and that's the celebration part. So my apologies for not starting with that first, because Juneteenth is the celebration, and
Mhm.
there's some wonderful things that go on with that.
Christy, how long did Liz live in Middletown? It's an ironic place for her to live, being sensitive and interested in the history of Connecticut, both Connecticut's.
She had been in Cromwell, I think, right, Marcia? I'm not sure when
Mhm.
she moved to Middletown. Do you remember when was it?
She had bought the house that she and Larry lived in for these last years, but I don't remember exactly when she bought it. Not that long, I don't think, before they got married, but I couldn't totally swear to that.
And so I've only known her, John, as living in Middletown. But of course, I
Mhm.
knew she had grown up in Old Saybrook, and that was so dear to her heart.
Mhm.
The thing that so fascinates me is she seems to have been a consummate Yankee with an understated presence and a lot of modesty. Yet, you know, she could see that very truly, I think, the duality that people in New England live. It's almost like going through a Tom
yeah.
Tryon novel, you know, seeing the underside and understanding it, and yet not screaming out loud, being able to contain that and handle it. And she did that eloquently.
Mhm.
Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful.
Yes. Yes.
Look at her dad. He's
He was amazing.
just a gorgeous man.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Boy, that brings back memories.
Yeah, exactly.
This has been wonderful.
Thank you so much, everyone, for doing this. It's wonderful to see you all.
Sure.
Thanks,
Wonderful to
Gary,
see
for
you
putting it together.
too.
And Christy.
So, John, I haven't seen you since the really old days, and Derry, I haven't seen you since the really old days. Sally and Alan have come out here a couple of times, and we all had dinner one time together. And then have we had lunch together like 2 times or just 1 time? I think 2 times.
Yes.
But I think I just love seeing you guys. Thank God for Facebook. I would never have known where any of you were.
I know. Yeah, the reunion.
Metaverse.
Well,
reunion
and then it was really fun because I got reconnected with Gary because our son Tim went to Wartburg College in Iowa, and he sang with the Wartburg Choir. And so his freshman year, they always sang in Des Moines first, and then they do a bunch of concerts in Waverly, where the college is. And so when he was a freshman, we went to Des Moines, and Gary, I knew you were there, and I said, hey, do you guys want to come to this concert? And then we had like 2 fabulous days together. He and Margaret took us all over, and it was so fun.
Yeah.
That was
So
like,
here's to more connections.
yes,
Right.
absolutely.
And I know Christy because she came to Iowa to talk about the veterans group for the Iowa Library Association. And
Wow.
said, hey, you should check Gary. So she did.
Yeah, they introduced us.
Yeah.
And I hadn't been to a library conference since I retired in 2008. And but I paid my $100.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I got
to hear me.
And the rest is
I got to
history.
hear. Not only did I get to hear about the veterans writing, but I also heard about the famous book talk on a yak.
Yes, I do a book discussion. Yak on a kayak.
Yak on a kayak. There we go.
On the water.
Not the animal, the boat.
On the boat. That's right.
Yes.
I had visions of Christy on top of this furry buffalo.
Steering it with his ears.
Well,
holding the horns.
Yeah, no, Christy is quite famous in library circles for her innovative approach.
Hey, librarians make the world go round. That's just my opinion.
And
I'm not a librarian, so.
But I'm so pleased that Liz, you know, I was introduced to Liz by her neighbor who worked with me, whose name is Carol. And like I said, we were supposed to be doing a 3-week workshop, and we did it. We were still doing it. So over 12 years.
Yep.
That's wonderful.
So
yeah.
Very fortunate to have, you know, a partner in crime like Liz. I don't know if it was in your slideshow, Gary, but my favorite picture with her, we had done a veterans memorabilia night, and we had just said, bring memorabilia to share. So of course I didn't realize, because I was kind of a newbie at this, people brought weapons. Memorabilia. So the second time we did it, we put a caveat on it that you can't bring any firearms or knives or anything like that. But there was like, hey, what happened? You know, why can't we? And Liz's cousin was there, Ashley, and his wife, Catherine. They were just happened to be in Connecticut. So I've had the honor of meeting some folks from Liz's family. Anna came out one time, Marcia, and came to the group too. So
wait, may I just jump in here? So
please.
her cousins, were those the children of her mother, sister, or what? Because
Well,
Liz was an only child.
Ashley's last name is James. And I don't know the exact
Okay, but
connection.
sorry to interrupt. I'm just.
No,
No,
that's-
that's
Cousins
Her,
are
her
great.
mother's sister was Anna Bush's mom, right?
Okay,
That makes
but
sense.
yeah, and Anna doesn't have any siblings. So it must have been somewhere from the James family. So I don't know for sure, but maybe Liz and Ashley are second cousins. I don't.
Cousins. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that would
So-
make sense.
Right. Yeah. Liz's grandmother had 7 siblings. And
Oh,
they're the ones on the cover of Can Anybody Beat White?
right.
Yeah. And Anna, Miss James, Anna Louise was the youngest of those eight James kids. But there were those are the letters, that whole story. That the 400 letters that Liz found after her mom died, sitting in an ice cream cone tin, being used as a coffee table in the living room. And these are letters from 1873 to 1910.
I love it.
Yeah. And she opened that up and looked at that and said, I have a book.
Yeah.
And that she did.
So she would speak on this, she would go places and talk about it, and she would read some of the letters. She had this most amazing, like I can see the theater part, because she would put all this, emotion into these readings. So I always had her read stuff at the veterans group. I'm like, oh, do you want to read that, Liz? Because I love listening to her. She would just give it as if it was theater. She would give it so much more than just reading off a page. And she would read a letter from a great uncle in the past, and he was in prison, and I believe he says for bothering a white man. I can't remember, Gary, if bothering meant he had beat him up or had to defend himself, or how that had been. But anyway, he's not.
I think he shot him.
I think
that I have that recollection too.
Yeah, I think so. And it was self-defense. And so he's in jail, and he's asking, for dear mother's sake, please send, I think it's $30, which was a lot of money. I fear I may be lynched. And I can hear Liz reading it. And then she would go on with the rest of her talk. And at the end, she would ask if anyone had any questions. And inevitably, someone would say, well, what happened to your uncle? And she'd say, you have to read the book.
Yeah. Read the book.
Very good.
That's great. Okay. Well, I think we ought to wrap it up.
I think we should too. It's so fun to see everyone. This is so great.
Thank you all. That was great.
Keep us posted, Grandma.
As soon as I hear they're on their way, before there are any pictures, I will put twins are here before I post any picture. But I might get a picture right away, so.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Good. It was such a pleasure to meet you all. Please stay in touch. We're all on Messenger, right? So just go ahead if you'd like to friend me. It'd be great.
Yeah.
And if I hear anything, certainly if Marcia hears anything, we'll let you know if there's a service, a memorial service.
Yeah, for sure.
And then hopefully some folks will be able to come to Connecticut, or if you're here, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That would be so fun.
Gary, thank you for setting all this up, and
thank you.
slideshow.
Incredible.
Yeah. Okay. Well, love and hugs
To everyone.
Yes. Marcia's great seeing you.
See you on
Gary, thanks for
Thank
putting
you.
this together. Chrissy, you're awesome.
Okay.
Thank you all. See you all.
Gary,
soon.
take care.
Take care.
Yeah. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye. How do I get out of
Bye-bye.